1993 to 1994, restrictor plate chaos, and the big one. The early 1990s brought a growing dread over NASCAR's restrictor plate races at Daytona and Talladega. After Bobby Allison's near-catastrophic 1987 crash, which tore down fencing and led to restrictor plates capping speeds, drivers and fans hoped pack racing would be safer. Instead, the next few seasons saw frequent multi-car wrecks so massive they earned a nickname, the Big One. In 1993, crashes sent cars like Rusty Wallace's flipping end over end. In 1994, veteran Neil Bonnett and rookie Rodney Orr lost their lives in Daytona practice sessions. Drivers began openly criticizing plate racing as feeling like a high-speed game of Russian roulette rather than a sport. With cars bunched tightly at 190 miles per hour, winning often meant merely surviving the carnage. Fans thrilled at the spectacle, but many, including stars like Dale Earnhardt, voiced that it was sad and scary to race under such conditions. This dark era of plate racing underscored the inherent tension in NASCAR's business. The breathtaking packs that sold tickets also put drivers' lives on the razor's edge, making every Talladega or Daytona race a roll of the dice. 1994. Tragedy at Daytona. Neil Bonnett and Rodney Orr lose their lives. Speedweeks 1994 at Daytona quickly turned tragic as two drivers lost their lives in separate crashes just days apart. The first was Neil Bonnett, a 47-year-old fan favorite and proud member of the famed Alabama gang. Bonnett had come out of retirement to take one more shot at the Daytona 500 during the first day of practice, February 11th. His bright yellow number 51 Chevy either blew a tire or lost grip in turn 4. The car spun abruptly and rocketed up the banking, slamming nearly head-on into the wall at more than 190 miles per hour. The G-forces were enormous, and Bonnett likely died instantly from massive head injuries. The shock was overwhelming. Just the night before, he had been laughing in the broadcast booth with friends. Now he was gone, leaving behind his wife and 2 children. On the day of his funeral, many drivers left Daytona to attend, unaware they'd soon be mourning again. Only 3 days later, on February 14th, 31-year-old rookie Rodney Orr took to the track for a solo practice. Hoping to make his first Cup start, Orr's black number 37 Ford roared through turn 2 at about 170 miles per hour when it suddenly snapped loose. As he tried to correct the slide, the car caught air and flipped violently, crashing roof first into the outside wall. The roll cage crushed near the windshield. Orr sustained fatal head and neck injuries. Tragically, the accident unfolded as many teams were preparing to attend Bonnett's funeral. In just 4 days, Daytona had claimed 2 lives, the Cup Series' first fatalities in over 2 years, leaving NASCAR stunned and searching for answers. 1995. Russell Phillips Sportsman crash, Charlotte. A lower division NASCAR event at Charlotte Motor Speedway turned horrific on October 6, 1995, when 26-year-old Sportsman driver Russell Phillips was killed in one of the most gruesome crashes in the sport's history. After a multi-car tangle in turn 4, Phillips's car went airborne and slammed roof first into the catch fence support posts. The impact sheared the roof and roll cage completely off, and Phillips was decapitated as the car came to rest as a mangled shell. Stunned spectators fell silent as rescue crews collected debris and remains scattered along the track. Phillips's death, the 9th racing fatality in Charlotte and the 3rd in the Sportsman division, shocked officials into action. The incident raised serious questions about car structural integrity and driver safety beyond the Cup level. By the end of 1995, Charlotte Motor Speedway president Humpy Wheeler scrapped the Sportsman series entirely, replacing it with more robust ARCA cars for 1996. Phillips's crash stands as a ghastly lesson, one that transformed safety protocols for NASCAR's feeder divisions. 2000. Tragedies at New Hampshire. Adam Petty and Kenny Irwin Jr. killed. The year 2000 became one of NASCAR's darkest, as 2 young drivers were killed in eerily similar accidents at the same track just weeks apart. The first was Adam Petty, a 19-year-old 4th-generation racer from the legendary Petty family. In May, Adam was practicing his Busch Series car at Loudon when disaster struck. Entering Turn 3, his throttle hung wide open. Unable to slow, his car slammed head-on into the concrete wall at roughly 130 miles per hour. The force caused a basilar skull fracture, a devastating head injury, and Petty died instantly. The NASCAR community was crushed. Adam was bright, likable, and carried the weight of his family's dynasty with grace. Now, in a single moment, the dream of seeing him extend the Petty legacy was gone. His grandfather, Richard Petty, was among the first on the scene, standing helpless as paramedics tried to save his mortally injured grandson. Less than 2 months later, tragedy struck again. On July 7th, Kenny Irwin Jr., a 30-year-old Cup Series driver, was practicing at Loudon when history seemed to repeat itself. Entering Turn 3, Irwin's car failed to decelerate, likely another stuck throttle. It hit the wall nearly head-on. The car flipped violently onto its roof. By the time crews reached him, Irwin had also suffered a fatal basilar skull fracture. The similarities were chilling. Same track, same corner, same type of crash, same outcome. On the same day of the week, exactly 8 weeks apart. NASCAR officials and teams were left shaken, facing urgent questions about safety. Loudon's flat turns offered no escape if a throttle jammed, and drivers had no system to shut down the engine in such emergencies. Tony Roper, 2000. For Tony Roper, a 35-year-old NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series driver, the 2000 season turned tragic on October 13, 2000, when a racing accident claimed his life. During a nighttime Truck Series race at Texas Motor Speedway, Roper's number 26 Ford collided with another truck and slammed head-on into the wall at high speed. His pickup erupted in flames. Rescuers had to cut its roof off to free him, but a severe neck injury left Roper with no brain activity. He died hours later on October 14th, becoming the third NASCAR driver fatality of 2000. Roper's death, the first ever at the Texas track, shook the motorsports community. "We are all shaken by the death of Tony Roper," the Speedway's director said, as NASCAR officials extended condolences to his family. Coming just months after the losses of Adam Petty and Kenny Irwin Jr. that same year, Roper's fatal crash underscored the dangerous realities of racing and added urgency to NASCAR's safety improvements in the early 2000s. 2000, Charlotte pedestrian bridge collapses, injuring 107 fans. What should have been a festive night at the NASCAR All-Star race turned into a scene of horror when a packed pedestrian bridge collapsed beneath departing fans. Shortly after the conclusion of the Winston, a Saturday night showcase, thousands of spectators poured out of Lowe's Motor Speedway towards the distant parking lots. Around 11:15 p.m., as a heavy crowd crossed a 320-foot-long concrete and steel walkway over Highway 29, two sharp cracks rang out above the traffic. In an instant, an 80-foot central section of the bridge gave way, dropping dozens of people 17 feet onto the asphalt below. It happened so quickly that many victims had no chance to react. Those on the bridge felt the floor vanish beneath them. Those below heard a deafening crash, followed by anguished screams. Miraculously, no one was killed, but the human toll was staggering. A total of 107 fans were injured in the fall. Many suffered broken bones, concussions, and crushed ankles. 16 were listed in critical condition, with spinal or internal injuries. The aftermath was chaotic. Twisted steel cables and shattered concrete littered the highway, while shoes, clothing, and personal items lay among pools of blood. In the chaos that followed, bystanders and off-duty medical workers rushed in to help. One man cradled a stranger's head to keep her neck stable, while others used jackets and belts to improvise stretchers until ambulances arrived. Fortunately, with medics already on site for the race, treatment began within minutes. Hospitals across Charlotte were soon overwhelmed by fans still in NASCAR attire, now patients in emergency rooms. Visibly shaken, Speedway president H.A. Humpy Wheeler rushed to the site, calling it the worst disaster in the track's history. "This is the last thing you'd ever expect. Spectators getting hurt after the race," he lamented. 2001, the death of Dale Earnhardt, NASCAR's darkest day. On a warm Sunday in February, NASCAR lost its greatest legend in an accident that nearly stopped the sport in its tracks. Dale Earnhardt Sr., the fearless 7-time champion known as the Intimidator, was fighting in the final laps of the 2001 Daytona 500. In a cruel twist, Earnhardt wasn't chasing the victory. He was blocking to protect the leads of his son Dale Jr. and his friend Michael Waltrip. On the last turn, Earnhardt's black No. 3 Chevrolet got loose alongside Sterling Marlin's Dodge. Marlin didn't touch him. The aero wake likely took the air off Earnhardt's spoiler. The rear stepped out, and Earnhardt overcorrected. Then, in a split second, the car snapped right and slammed head-on into the concrete wall at roughly 160 miles per hour, then was struck again by Ken Schrader. To TV viewers, it looked like a routine crash, far less violent than others that day. But inside the cockpit, the forces were lethal. Earnhardt's open-face helmet and the absence of a head and neck restraint meant his head whipped violently forward. Doctors later noted a full-face helmet wouldn't have saved him. The left lap belt had twisted and tore. He was known to wear his belt slightly looser for comfort. A head and neck restraint might have prevented contact with the wheel, though the injuries were still likely catastrophic. Safety crews rushed to the scene, but Schrader's frantic signals told the truth. He saw immediately it was really bad. Earnhardt was unresponsive, and the doctors at Halifax Medical Center soon confirmed the unthinkable. NASCAR's biggest star had died from a basilar skull fracture, the same injury that had recently claimed Adam Petty, Kenny Irwin Jr., and others. Earnhardt had long bristled at plate racing's risks, once growling, "If you're scared to go fast, tie a kerosene rag around your ankles so the ants don't crawl up there and eat that candy ass." That evening, NASCAR President Mike Helton announced with a trembling voice, "We've lost Dale Earnhardt." Shock and disbelief gripped the nation. Earnhardt wasn't just a driver, he was the face of stock car racing, a folk hero in black. The mourning was immense. Fans piled flowers, notes, and No. 3 hats at Daytona's gates. Rival crews wept openly in the garage. For millions, it felt as if NASCAR's very heart had been torn away. 2001 to 2002. The basilar skull fracture crisis. The early 2000s were one of the darkest periods for NASCAR safety, marked by a devastating cluster of driver fatalities from basilar skull fractures. In 2000, rising stars Adam Petty and Kenny Irwin Jr. were killed in separate crashes just weeks apart at the same track, both suffering the telltale skull base injury. That October, Truck Series driver Tony Roper also died from a similar wreck. Then, on February 18, 2001, the unthinkable happened. Dale Earnhardt Sr., the sports icon, lost his life in a last-lap Daytona 500 crash, again due to a basilar skull fracture. Yet even after Earnhardt's death, tragedy struck once more in October 2001, when ARCA Busch Series driver Blaze Alexander was killed in a Charlotte race crash, the result of the same injury. This string of fatalities finally forced NASCAR's hand. Within weeks, officials mandated the use of head and neck restraint devices in its top series. What had been unimaginable, 4 young drivers and a legend gone in 18 months, became the catalyst for sweeping safety reforms to prevent further skull fracture deaths. 2004. Hendrick Motorsports plane crash decimates a racing family. A heavy fog blanketed Martinsville Speedway on the morning of October 24, 2004, setting an eerie backdrop for one of NASCAR's darkest off-track tragedies. A Beechcraft King Air 200, carrying members of Hendrick Motorsports, was attempting to land at a nearby airport for that day's Cup race. Communication was lost, and soon the worst was confirmed. The plane had slammed into a mountainside 7 miles short of the runway. All 10 people aboard were killed instantly. The passenger list was heartbreaking. Among the dead was Ricky Hendrick, the 24-year-old son of team owner Rick Hendrick. Rick's brother, John Hendrick, the team president, and John's twin daughters, Kimberly and Jennifer, were also on board. Longtime HMS engine director Randy Dorton, team general manager Jeff Turner, and 2 trusted Hendrick pilots perished as well. In one fiery instant, Rick Hendrick, the sport's most successful team owner of the era, lost his son, his brother, nieces, and several key members of his racing family. News reached the track during the race, but officials withheld it until the finish to prevent chaos. When Jimmie Johnson, who had just won, and Jeff Gordon were pulled aside afterwards, the celebration quickly turned to devastation. Crewmen fell to their knees in grief. Rick Hendrick, homesick that weekend, was shattered when NASCAR president Mike Helton broke the news by phone. The days that followed brought an outpouring of sorrow. Thousands filled a Charlotte memorial service, while Hendrick's headquarters became a shrine of flowers and condolences. Investigators later ruled the cause as pilot error, failing to execute an instrument landing in heavy cloud cover. 2007. Fuelgate cheating scandal tarnishes the Daytona 500. The week of the 2007 Daytona 500 produced one of NASCAR's boldest cheating scandals, casting a dark shadow over the sport's biggest race. At the center was Michael Waltrip Racing, a brand new Toyota-backed team making its debut. During pre-race inspection, officials noticed an unusual substance inside the intake manifold of Waltrip's number 55 car. Lab tests confirmed the stunning truth. The engine contained a fuel additive with rocket fuel-like properties, an oxygenate designed to boost horsepower. In NASCAR circles, fuel tampering is the ultimate taboo. As team owner Rick Hendrick bluntly put it, "It's like auto racing treason." NASCAR wasted no time lowering the hammer. On February 14th, they handed down an unprecedented penalty. Crew chief David Hyder and team director Bobby Kennedy were suspended indefinitely and physically escorted out of the garage. Waltrip himself was docked 100 driver points before the season had even started. Though he was permitted to continue qualifying with a hastily prepared backup car and an interim crew chief, the scandal dominated headlines and embarrassed Toyota's highly publicized NASCAR debut. Waltrip, fighting tears in a press conference, admitted he was ashamed and revealed even his 9-year-old daughter asked why he cheated. He insisted he had no knowledge of the additive, but as team owner, vowed to bear full responsibility. Privately, he even considered withdrawing from the race altogether. Toyota executives, furious over the black eye to their image, pressured him to press on and prove himself on the track. MWR's two other cars, driven by Dale Jarrett and David Rudiman, cleared inspection without incident, but the damage was done. Toyota's first Daytona 500 weekend had been marred by a scandal that would haunt Waltrip's reputation for years. 2008. Brickyard 400 tire fiasco. The 2008 Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis became infamous as the competition caution 400, after a tire disaster turned the crown jewel race into a farce. Goodyear's tires were wearing out so rapidly on the abrasive Indy surface, exacerbated by NASCAR's new Car of Tomorrow design, that officials were forced to throw caution flags every 10 to 12 laps to prevent dangerous blowouts. The longest green flag run of the day lasted only 12 laps. Fans and drivers were outraged as the constant slowdowns shattered the event's prestige. Four-time winner Jeff Gordon called it embarrassing. At the Brickyard, such a big race. Jimmie Johnson may have won the race, but the real headline was NASCAR and Goodyear's public relations nightmare. In the aftermath, top officials issued apologies and fundamentally rethought their testing program. They vowed never to repeat that mistake, increasing tire tests at Indy and revising the car's downforce to ensure that such a high-profile failure would not happen again. 2009. Jeremy Mayfield's drug scandal and downfall. In May 2009, NASCAR was rocked by a public drug scandal that ended the career of veteran driver Jeremy Mayfield. A 5-time Cup Series race winner, Mayfield was randomly tested under NASCAR's newly implemented substance abuse policy. Just before the Richmond race, the bombshell dropped. Mayfield had failed a drug test for a banned substance. It was later leaked that the drug was methamphetamine, a stunning allegation against a longtime competitor. NASCAR immediately suspended him indefinitely under its zero-tolerance rules. Mayfield fiercely denied the claim. He argued the result was a false positive, caused by a mix of prescription Adderall for ADHD and Claritin D for allergies. He submitted a second sample for independent testing, but that too came back positive. Convinced that he had been wronged, Mayfield filed a federal lawsuit against NASCAR and CEO Brian France, alleging defamation and negligence. NASCAR countered with its own lawsuit and doubled down on the test results. The feud grew bitter when Mayfield's estranged stepmother testified that she had witnessed him using meth for years, a statement he dismissed as character assassination. In July of 2009, a judge briefly lifted his suspension, but NASCAR quickly won on appeal, restoring the ban. From there, Mayfield's life spiraled. In 2011, police raided his North Carolina property, reportedly finding meth and stolen goods, including heavy equipment and electronics. He was arrested and faced criminal charges for possession and theft. Sponsors and teams had already walked away, and his credibility collapsed. In 2012, a judge dismissed Mayfield's lawsuit entirely, ruling that NASCAR's competitor agreement required binding arbitration. With no legal path left and his reputation in ruins, Jeremy Mayfield faded from the sport, never to race in NASCAR again. 2009. Talladega fan injury crash. Edwards. NASCAR received a frightening wake-up call about spectator safety at Talladega in April of 2009. On the final lap, Carl Edwards' Ford was clipped while battling for the win, sending it airborne at 190+ miles an hour into the catch fence at the Tri-Oval. The fence did its job, stopping the flying car just short of the grandstands. But debris from the spectacular crash showered the fans. 7 spectators were injured, mostly minor, with 2 treated for fractures, as fence pieces and car parts flew into the crowd. Miraculously, no one was seriously hurt, and Edwards climbed out of his demolished car to symbolically jog across the finish line. Nevertheless, the incident was a stark reminder of the thin line between thrilling entertainment and disaster. It prompted Talladega to reinforce its fencing and led drivers like Edwards to openly criticize the dangers of pack racing at super speedways, warning that NASCAR will race this way until they kill somebody. 2011. The Kentucky Speedway traffic fiasco. Sometimes a dark NASCAR moment comes down to logistics and a lot of angry fans. Such was the case with the inaugural Cup Series race at Kentucky Speedway in July of 2011, remembered now for an absolute traffic nightmare. The Speedway, hosting its first-ever sold-out Cup event, over 100,000 fans, underestimated the infrastructure needed to get people in and out. Hours before the green flag, traffic on Interstate 71 leading to the track backed up for over 15 miles. Parking lots overflowed and then closed, stranding vehicles on the highway. Many ticket holders were stuck in gridlock for 4, 6, even 8 hours, and thousands never reached the track at all. Even driver Denny Hamlin tweeted from his car, sitting in the jam, as frustration mounted. Fans who did arrive described chaos, no parking, shuttle buses failing, people standing 50 deep in lines for portable toilets after being trapped in cars for so long. It was, as ESPN bluntly put it, not a traffic jam. It was a traffic catastrophe. The debacle was so embarrassing that Kentucky's track owners and state officials issued public apologies and promised major improvements. But for many fans, that night was their first and last NASCAR event. A painful lesson in how off-track mismanagement can cast a dark cloud over a sport's moment to shine. That's the end of Part 2 in our Darkest Moments in NASCAR History series. If you missed Part 1, which covers everything from the first Cup driver death in 1952 to Fireball Roberts' fiery end and the tragedies of the 1960s, check the link in the description to see how this story begins. In Part 3, 2012 to 2025, things go even darker. From the surreal Spingate race-fixing scandal to Tony Stewart's dirt track tragedy, NASCAR's own CEO arrested for DUI, and even a former driver convicted in an FBI pedophilia sting. Hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and make sure to subscribe to the NASCAR Explainer so you don't miss it.